Hey guys, tonight we wake up in the middle of absolutely nowhere. Like, sand in your mouth, heat blasting your eyelashes, no Google Maps kind of nowhere. You open your eyes and find yourself lying on hot sand, surrounded by endless dunes. There are no roads, no signs, no shade, just sun, silence, and that one persistent grain of sand lodged somewhere uncomfortable. But you're not alone. Not really. Around you, half buried in stone columns and crumbling walls, are hundreds of carved eyes. Not metaphorical ones. Literal, ancient Egyptian Eye of Horus engravings, and you're pretty sure one of them just blinked. You get the distinct feeling you're being watched, not by cameras, but by something older, smarter, and maybe a bit judgy. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you love getting lost in history's strangest corners. And drop a comment, where are you watching from and what time is it over there? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You sit up slowly, your head spinning and your throat dry enough to qualify as an archaeological artifact. Just a few feet away, a golden scarab beetle skitters across a sun-baked rock, pauses dramatically, then vanishes. Great! Already more composed than you. Ahead, half sunken in the sand, stands a black obelisk carved with glowing spirals of hieroglyphs. When you touch it, a voice doesn't speak to your ears, it echoes inside your skull, like your thoughts got hijacked by a divine PA system. Welcome to the game of judgment. You have been chosen from among the wandering souls to compete for the favor of the gods. Complete the rituals. Conquer the trials. Do not be forgotten. You don't remember signing up for this. Then again, you also don't remember your name. A few other figures stumble into view, 5 of them. They look just as confused as you do, dressed in the same coarse linen robes and mismatched sandals. One tries to speak, but all that comes out is static, like your language module hasn't fully loaded yet. Then, everyone looks up at the same time. High above the dunes, perched on a rocky hill, is a massive sphinx. Its body is a lion's, but the face is yours. And it's smiling. That smug, I know what's coming kind of smile. Honestly, it's rude. Okay. Either you're trapped in a very vivid dream directed by a history-obsessed trickster god, or you're the unwilling star of a cosmic game show designed by the ancient Egyptian pantheon. Fun. An old man steps out from behind a column. His skin is leathered by sun, his eyes clouded with age, and he leans on a serpent-shaped staff. He introduces himself as Meru, interpreter of the trials. The Nile awaits you, child of the wind. Cross it, and the gods may yet remember your name. You're not sure if that's a metaphor or a threat, but the guy has that speaks in riddles and probably turns into a hawk vibe, so you go with it. The 6 of you follow a narrow path between the dunes until you reach the river. And yes, it's the Nile. Vast, gleaming, and unsettlingly serene. Like a giant waiting to yawn. By the shore is a reed boat, decorated with ibis feathers and copper mirrors. A priest stands nearby, his expression a mix of boredom and quiet superiority. Reality show host energy, if the show were written by hieroglyphs and cryptic omens. The first trial? Cross the river alone in the boat, without dropping the tie of judgment, a small turquoise stone pulsing faintly in your hand. If it dims, well, let's just say the crocodiles won't be asking for autographs. You step into the boat. The others wait their turn, staring down at their glowing stones. The priest raises one hand, and the river seems to hush. Time to row. The reed boat wobbles as you step in, sending a ripple of unease through your spine and a literal one across the Nile. The priest watches, unmoving, like he's seen this scene unfold 1,000 times and knows exactly how many of you won't make it to the other side. You settle onto a low bench made of woven reeds, holding the Eye of Judgment tightly in one hand. It's warm, unnaturally so, and pulses faintly in rhythm with your heartbeat. Or is it the heartbeat of the river? Hard to tell. Nothing here is as it should be. There's no paddle. Instead, the boat responds to your focus. Think forward, and it glides ahead. Think too hard about sinking, and the boat starts listing like it's reconsidering your worth. So, no pressure. The current tugs at the edges of the vessel, and the distant sounds of waterbirds and splashing fish fill the silence. That, and the occasional ominous gurgle. You glance down. Something just brushed the underside of the boat. Something big. Something scaly. You look back at the priest. Still not blinking. Not helpful. As you drift toward the center of the Nile, the sky darkens, not with clouds, but with hundreds of birds circling above. Ibis, falcons, even vultures, all making lazy loops. It feels less like nature and more like surveillance. They're definitely watching. About halfway through, the boat begins to slow. The water here is darker, thicker somehow, as though memories are suspended in it. The eye of judgment in your hand flickers. Nope. Not good. Suddenly, a shadow slithers beneath the boat. Long silent. Too smooth. A crocodile? No. Bigger. More ancient. You don't see it, but you feel it, like it looked directly into your soul and shrugged. That's when a voice, not your own, whispers from the river bank. Do you remember why you're here? You look around. No one. But the voice continues, flowing directly into your mind like the Nile into a delta. You were chosen for your potential. Or your danger. Depends on who you ask. Cool. Very reassuring. As if on cue, 3 stone pillars begin rising from the river ahead, forming a triangle. Hieroglyphs crawl up their sides like insects. Your boat drifts toward the center of this structure, and your stone pulses once, twice, then goes dim. You freeze. The boat halts midstream. The water around you stirs, forming whirlpools in perfect concentric circles. The eye glows faintly again, but something has changed. From the space between the pillars, a figure rises. It's human-shaped, but covered in wet linen strips. Not a mummy, too fluid. It moves with elegance, gliding on the water's surface like mist. Its face is hidden, but you feel its gaze. A trial within the trial. You hear the rules not with your ears but directly in your bones. Speak truth. One question only. One answer only. Or sink. Okay, cool. Just a casual one-question quiz where failure equals drowning. You rack your brain. What should you ask? What matters? Then, impulsively, you say, "Who am I?" The figure tilts its head. The whirlpools pause. A pause like the gods are rolling their eyes. And then it answers, not in words, but in a rush of images, sandstorms, temples, laughter, betrayal. You see flashes of yourself, kneeling before a golden mask, running through corridors lined with torches, weeping beside a stone sarcophagus. You were someone. Someone important. The figure nods. The whirlpools dissolve. The boat moves forward again. And just like that, the figure sinks back beneath the surface, gone without a ripple. When you reach the far shore, the priest is waiting. No surprise there. He doesn't speak, just gestures toward a stone platform. The other participants have arrived too, some dry, others soaked to the bone, all holding their stones. Only 5 of you now. One is missing. No one speaks of it. You're led up a slope to a massive courtyard surrounded by colossal statues, gods in all their half-human, half-animal glory. Bastet, Sekhmet, Thoth, all frozen in elegant judgment. At the center is a stone circle filled with sand and obsidian shards, the circle of memory, Meru calls it. Here, your names are to be returned. You step into the circle, and the ground lights beneath your feet in glowing script. One by one, the others do the same. When it's your turn, the priest holds out a vessel, a clay jar etched with a scarab. Drink, and be remembered. You hesitate. The liquid is thick, dark red, and smells like honey and something metallic. But hey, what's a little divine blood between friends? You drink. Visions slam into your mind. You see your own hands binding a scroll, chanting in a tongue you somehow know. You see a crown, a betrayal, fire. You see yourself standing at the edge of the same Nile, before being pushed. You drop the jar. It shatters, and so does something inside your head. A name floats up from the depths of your memory. You speak it. The priest smiles. For the first time. Welcome back, your name here. The gods have chosen to remember you, for now. The others murmur their names as well, each word crackling with weight. The circle pulses once and goes dark. The trial is complete. But you can feel the game has only just begun. Somewhere behind the statues, a large gate begins to creak open, its hinges groaning like the jawbones of a giant. Inside, torches flicker, and distant chanting echoes from the stone halls beyond. Meru steps ahead and raises his staff. The next trial will test your choices. The gods are watching, and the eye sees deeper than flesh. You glance at your companions. Some look confident. Others terrified. You? You feel strangely ready. Because for the first time, you remember, you've walked among gods before. The gate looms ahead like the open mouth of some slumbering beast, carved with layers of ancient script and crowned by two giant falcon wings that seem ready to snap shut at the first wrong step. You and the others stand in hesitant silence, waiting for someone to move first. Finally, Meru taps the ground twice with his staff, and the air shifts, warm and expectant. You step inside. The air grows cooler, heavy with the scent of incense, wet stone, and something faintly metallic, like forgotten blood and ceremonial bronze. The walls are lined with tall torches, their flames unmoving despite the current of energy that seems to ripple through the corridor. You hear no footsteps, though everyone walks. It's as if the temple absorbs sound, and maybe intention. Ahead, the passage splits into 3 paths. Each marked by a different deity, a jackal for Anubis, a scale for Mat, and a coiled cobra for Wadjet. Meru turns and, in a voice that carries unnaturally far, declares, "Choose your path. Choose your truth." Of course, there's a catch. No time limit. No guidance. Just choose. The others scatter quickly, some with purpose, others clearly guessing. You're left alone, staring at the 3 symbols, wondering not which is easiest, but which is most likely to spare your soul. You pick the scale, Mat, goddess of truth and balance. It feels neutral. Fair. Maybe even survivable. As you pass beneath the stone lintel marked with feathers and judgment, you feel something tug against your chest, like invisible fingers brushing your heart. The torchlight flickers. The moment you enter, the hallway behind you disappears. Of course it does. The path ahead is narrower, flanked by mirrors. But not normal ones. These are polished obsidian panels that show not your reflection, but versions of you, each one slightly wrong. One older, one younger, one wounded, one smug. One looks directly at you and mouths something you can't hear. You stop. "Do you know yourself?" a voice asks. It's calm, androgynous, like silk soaked in honey. You turn, but no one's there. Suddenly, a column of light forms at the end of the hall. A stone platform rises from the floor, bearing a single object, a golden feather. The trial begins. You approach the platform cautiously. As you get closer, the obsidian mirrors around you begin to shimmer. Each one now displays a memory, some familiar, others uncomfortable. Moments you didn't think anyone saw. Moments you might have tried to forget. A child crying as you take something from their hands. A figure kneeling while you walk away. A fire you started, not literal, but reputational. You want to look away, but the mirrors demand attention. Place your hand on the feather, the voice says. You obey. Instantly, you're flooded with sensation, like being stretched across time. You feel your worst moments laid bare, and your best ones questioned. Did you help because you cared, or because it made you feel powerful? Did you lie to protect someone, or to protect yourself? Historians still debate whether Matt's judgment was symbolic or literal, but right now, it feels very literal. The feather glows. Then dims. Then glows again. Your breath catches. You carry truth, the voice says. But also wait. Suddenly, one of the mirror versions of you steps from the glass. Not metaphorically. Literally steps out. This version is darker, not in appearance, but in aura. Confident. Arrogant. Dangerous. It smiles. You think you're worthy, it asks. Let's test that. The mirror you lunges, and you barely dodge. No weapons. No rules. Just you versus a version of yourself that knows every weakness you've ever tried to ignore. The fight is brutal, psychological as much as physical. It taunts you with memories. Doubts. Truths you didn't want to admit. At one point, it pins you. You can't win if you're lying to yourself. But something shifts. You stop fighting to defeat it, and start acknowledging it. Yes, you've made mistakes. Yes, you've been selfish. But you're here now, choosing to face it. That's something. With that realization, the mirror you softens. It blinks, then crumbles into dust. The feather on the platform shines with steady light. Trial passed. You're allowed to exit. A door slides open silently behind the wall of mirrors, leading into another chamber. Inside, you find the others, well, most of them. One is missing. Again, no one speaks of it. That's how it goes here. Meru stands at the front, nodding approvingly. You carry your truth. The gods are intrigued. He gestures toward a large stone table filled with glyphs and tokens. One by one, he hands each of you a token. Yours bears the Eye of Horus, now partially closed. You may offer one truth to the temple, and in return, receive a glimpse of another. You hesitate. What truth can you give? You think of the fire, the betrayal, the guilt. You press your token to the stone, whispering your truth into the rock. In return, the table glows and reveals a glimpse of something, a vision of a chamber deep underground. A sarcophagus half open. A figure stepping out. It's not you. But it might have been. The vision fades. Meru turns. The trials continue. But so does the memory of the gods. Beware what you give, for it shapes what you become. You all follow him out into a moonlit courtyard. The stars above look closer than they should, like the gods are leaning in for a better view. Somewhere, a jackal howls. Night has fallen. And in the shadows of the temple, the next challenge stirs. The moonlight is unnaturally bright tonight. It coats the temple courtyard in silver, casting long, exaggerated shadows that stretch across the sand like fingers trying to reach something long lost. You and the remaining participants are guided by torchbearers, silent, faceless acolytes wrapped in black linen, from the trial chamber to a new area within the temple complex. The air smells of burning papyrus and crushed lotus. You pass under a gate where two jackal-headed statues face each other in permanent sneers. Their jeweled eyes glint as you walk between them, as if judging your soul with every breath you take. Inside the new chamber, the space opens into a circle lined with ivory columns. The ceiling is gone, open to the star-drenched sky. In the center lies a raised platform carved from black basalt, shaped like an open scroll. Meru steps forward, his staff tapping softly against the stone, and raises a hand for silence that no one dares break. "This is the tally of shadows," he says, his voice echoing as though the stars themselves are listening. "Tonight, the temple watches not just what you are, but what you hide. That's never a good sign." Acolytes move among you, handing out slim, rectangular tablets, slates of slate, appropriately, etched with the Eye of Ra. The symbol is closed, its pupil missing. You're told to hold the tablet against your chest and focus. No questions, no hints. You do as instructed. Within moments, the slate vibrates faintly. Symbols begin etching themselves across the surface, lines of hieroglyphs you don't remember writing, but somehow know are yours. Regrets. Secrets. Choices. All burned into stone. You see an image of a hand letting go of another's, a door closing, a golden opportunity turned down. Each line scratches deeper into the stone and into your mind. Suddenly, the Eye of Ra blinks open. The courtyard goes silent. Your tablet is taken from your hands by one of the acolytes and placed carefully onto the basalt platform. So are the others. 6 tablets in total, neatly aligned. Meru steps behind the platform and extends both hands to the sky. Let them be seen. The moonlight intensifies, spilling down like a waterfall of light. The tablets glow, and one by one, images rise from them, holographic but ancient, like memories made of smoke. You watch as each vision plays out, projected into the air. A woman walks away from her child without turning back. A man steals a relic from a burial chamber. Another figure poisons a cup while pretending to pour wine. These aren't scenes from myths. These are confessions. Your scene appears last. It shows you walking down a corridor lit by oil lamps. You stop at a door, place your hand on it, and leave. That's it. But you know what it means. You know who was behind that door. You feel every pair of eyes, real and imagined, fall on you. Meru says nothing. He doesn't have to. The light fades, and the tablets return to their dormant state. One of the participants, a quiet girl with copper-colored eyes, starts to cry. Softly. No one moves to comfort her. Comfort feels illegal here. Then, a new voice speaks. It's not Meru. It comes from the shadows near the columns. A woman steps forward, dressed in pale linen with a leopard skin sash, marking her as a priestess of Sekhmet. Her gaze is stern. Her face is painted gold. Each of you now bears a mark, she says. You've been seen. Not just by us, but by them. She points to the heavens. For the next phase, your actions will speak louder than memory. You will choose who carries weight, and who is cast into silence. Wait. What? She extends a basket filled with small black stones. You each draw one. In your hand, the stone feels heavier than it should be, warm and smooth, almost alive. You will enter the Chamber of Echoes, the priestess continues. Inside, you'll place your stone on the scale of one of your companions. The heavier their scale, the closer they move to the gates of departure. This is a vote. But not with names. Not with reasons. Just wait. The Chamber of Echoes lies beneath the courtyard, through a narrow spiral staircase that seems to descend forever. The walls here are carved with looping text that glows faintly as you pass. The air is thick and cool, scented with mineral and damp earth. Inside the chamber, 6 scales stand in a circle, each marked with a different participant symbol. No names. Just symbols. Yours is the spiral. The others vary: an ankh, a cobra, a feather, a flame, and a reed boat. You watch as the others begin placing their stones. Some hesitate. Others drop them quickly and step back. You hold your own stone tightly, staring at the scales. Do you vote for the one who mocked the crying girl? The one who's been silent and cunning? Or do you vote defensively, to avoid becoming a target? Historians still debate whether real rituals involved these kinds of symbolic judgment among the living, but if they did, they likely looked a lot like this. In the end, you walk to a scale, not your own, and place your stone carefully on its plate. The metal groans slightly under the weight. You don't look to see whose symbol it was. Afterward, you and the others return to the surface. The moon has moved. The statues cast different shadows. Everything feels tilted, like reality itself has shifted. The priestess returns. One of you carries the weight of many. By dawn, they will pass into silence. And just like that, the ceremony ends. No name is spoken. No face singled out. But you all know what comes next. As the night wears on, the torches are extinguished one by one. Acolytes escort you to separate chambers, small, cold cells carved into the temple walls. You lie down on a stone bed, the linen blanket scratchy against your skin. Somewhere nearby, someone is quietly praying in a dialect you almost understand. Maybe to the gods. Maybe to themselves. You close your eyes. And just before sleep takes you, you hear footsteps. Then silence. Morning arrives slowly, as if reluctant to interfere with what happened in the dark. The first thing you notice is the shift in the air, less oppressive, but colder. The second thing is the absence. The corridor outside your cell is silent. You wait for footsteps, a voice, something. But nothing comes. Eventually, the door creaks open on its own. No acolyte. No ceremony. Just an invitation to rejoin the waking world. You step out and follow the familiar hallways toward the main courtyard. The path is lined with blue lotus blossoms today, fresh ones, recently laid, as if in mourning or celebration. You're not sure which yet. When you arrive, 5 of you are present. The 6th is gone. No name is mentioned. No explanation is offered. Their scale simply isn't there anymore. Meru is waiting, his hands clasped before him. The gods accept the silence. Let us move forward. That's it. No speeches, no grief. Just progress. You're led to a new chamber, a domed hall beneath the temple where every surface is covered in murals. Battle scenes, coronations, sacrifices. But all the faces have been intentionally scratched out, as if identity itself is forbidden here. Acolytes usher each of you to separate platforms arranged in a circle. The trial of legacy begins, Meru says, his voice low but firm. You will carve your story. Before you, a block of limestone rises from the floor. Tools appear at your side, chisels, brushes, pigments. You're meant to create something here. Not merely art, but memory. Proof that you existed. And if you fail, well, those who leave no mark leave no legacy. The challenge is simple in instruction, but impossibly complex in meaning. You begin. At first, your hands don't know what they're doing. You chip aimlessly, unsure what image to commit to stone. A name? A symbol? A scene? Slowly, your mind settles. You recall the image from the river trial, the door you didn't open. The moment you chose to walk away. So you carve that. A corridor. A door. A hesitant figure standing before it. You smooth the lines, etch in shadows. The process is strangely meditative, and the room fills with the quiet clinking of stone against stone. Occasionally, you glance at the others. One carves a war scene. Another paints spirals and celestial maps. One sits, frozen, unable to begin. The priestess of Sekhmet walks among you. She says nothing but stops to study your carving. Her expression unreadable. Her presence lingers just long enough to make your hands tremble. When time is up, though no clock marks it, Meru speaks again. Step back. Your legacy is sealed. Suddenly, torches flare to life around the chamber. The walls begin to shift, rotating inward, merging your murals with the ancient ones. Your work is now part of the temple, forever, or at least until time decides otherwise. But one of the blocks does not merge. It crumbles. The person who could not begin has failed. Their hands shake. The priestess touches their shoulder gently, almost kindly, and leads them through a narrow door. You don't see them again. Only those who shape memory shape history, Meru says. And only those who leave truth may continue. Now only 4 of you remain. You're taken to a narrow passage, barely wide enough for a person. The walls are lined with copper discs that catch the flickering torchlight and twist it into odd patterns. You walk single file, feet echoing on stone, until you reach a round chamber lit only by firelight from a brazier at the center. Here, things change. The priestess speaks again. This is not a trial, she says. This is an offering. You're each handed a clay jar, sealed with wax, and surprisingly heavy. Your task is simple: take the jar to the top of the temple, alone, and return before the flame dies out. No instructions on how long that might be. Just a task and a warning. Do not open what is sealed. Not everything hidden should be revealed. Sounds easy enough. Which, of course, means it isn't. You take your jar and begin to climb. The temple's inner stairwell is a spiral, a dizzying loop of stone steps worn smooth by centuries of pilgrimages, rituals, and secrets. The air grows thinner with each level. Symbols etched into the wall seem to shift as you pass, and once or twice, you swear the jar pulses, like something inside is breathing. About halfway up, your path is blocked. Not by a person. By a question. Etched into the wall in gold leaf is a phrase. What truth would you die to protect? You're not told to answer aloud, but somehow, you know you must. You place a hand on the wall and whisper your response, not because anyone's listening, but because the wall is. It accepts your answer. The passage clears. You reach the top of the temple, a wide platform open to the sky. The view is breathtaking. The Nile glows in the distance like a silver serpent, and the desert stretches endlessly beyond. Here, you place the jar at the center of a stone altar and wait. Time stretches. The flame below is dying. You feel it, somehow. So you lift the jar, ready to return. But the seal has cracked. A thin line has formed in the wax. Whatever's inside is pushing to escape. You hesitate. Every instinct tells you to open it. Curiosity claws at you. But the warning echoes in your mind. You press the seal tighter, hold the jar close, and descend. You return just as the final embers flicker. The priestess nods once and takes the jar from your hands. She doesn't open it, but her eyes widen slightly, as if whatever was inside recognized her. Another participant returns just behind you. A third never does. The flame dies. Only 3 of you remain. Meru steps forward, staff tapping 3 times. The gods now know your truths, your shadows, your shape in memory. But there is one trial left before the pen of fate writes your final line. He gestures toward the deepest chamber of the temple, where shadows pulse like slow-moving tides. You've come far. Too far, perhaps. But there's no going back. The game, if you can still call it that, is almost at its end. The final chamber waits beyond a long, sloping corridor that dips beneath the very foundations of the temple. As you and the 2 remaining participants are led downward, the air changes. It grows heavier, as though soaked in history, or something older. You can taste salt in the air, though you're far from the sea. Your skin prickles. Even your thoughts slow. You realize you're descending into what the priests called Duat, the shadow realm beneath the world. The place between breath and memory. This is where judgment happens in myth. And here, it seems, myth has teeth. The corridor ends in a vast circular chamber, lit only by glowing braziers filled with blue flame. In the center is a great stone basin filled with still, black water. Around it stand 12 thrones, empty, but each carved with the likeness of a different god. Thoth, Sekhmet, Anubis, Sobek, Atha. Even the chaos serpent, Apep, has a throne here, called and mocking. You are directed to the edge of the basin. Meru's voice is hushed, reverent. This is the pool of weighing, he says. You will see not your reflection, but your echo. What the gods see when they look upon your soul. Sounds fun. One by one, you're told to gaze into the water. The priestess lights a final torch and casts something into the flames, fragrant resin, perhaps, or crushed bone. Smoke curls across the ceiling like a canopy. The first participant steps forward and looks down. Nothing happens for a long moment. Then the water ripples, and an image rises, a field of gold, a crown left in the dirt, and a lone figure walking away. The others murmur. Meru nods. The participant says nothing, but there are tears on their face. Then it's your turn. You approach the basin, heart pounding in your chest like a temple drum. You kneel, peer over the edge, and look into the black. At first, it's just darkness. Then, slowly, something stirs. You see a corridor. Familiar. The one from your first memory. The one with the door. This time, though, the door opens. And inside is a child, yourself, maybe, or someone you failed. The figure doesn't speak. They only look at you, then vanish. The image fades. The water stills. You carry regret, Meru says softly. But also resolve. The gods take interest. The final participant approaches. Their water shows fire, unending fire, burning through a city. The others step back instinctively. Meru watches closely. No judgment, just curiosity. The image vanishes. Now comes the real challenge. You will each be given a mask, the priestess says, unveiling 3 ornate objects carved from gold and lapis. You must wear it and face the chamber of truth. There, your soul will speak its final claim. You are handed your mask. It's heavier than it looks. The inside is lined with linen, warm from someone's hand, or perhaps something more ancient. The exterior is carved with the symbol of the lotus, a sign of rebirth. That feels intentional. With the masks on, the chamber feels even more surreal. Your vision narrows. Breathing slows. You're led to a series of archways, each one identical, each glowing faintly with magic or memory. Meru speaks once more. You must choose a door. Only one leads forward. The others lead to forgetting. Just what you needed, ancient Egyptian multiple choice. The other 2 hesitate, scanning the doors as if hoping for clues. You don't bother. Something draws you to the second door on the left. Not logic. Not instinct. Just a pull. You step through. Darkness surrounds you. Your footsteps echo on a floor you can't see. Then the mask tightens around your face, and you fall, not physically, but into something deeper than sleep. You land in a memory. Not a dream, not quite a vision. A moment from your past, long buried. You're back in that corridor again. This time, though, you're not walking away. You're standing at the door, and the child inside calls your name. It's not just a metaphor. It's a test. You step through the door. Inside, the room is filled with scrolls. Shelves upon shelves of them. A library. But every scroll bears your name. Each one a record of a choice. A moment. A betrayal. A kindness. You feel the weight of them all. This is who you are. Not what others saw, but what you did. A figure steps forward. It's you. Not a mirror image, not a memory. You, but older. Wiser. Scarred. The version that remembers everything. Do you accept it? The echo you asks. All of it? You nod. Slowly. Not because you're proud, but because denial is heavier. The figure smiles. And hands you a scroll. This is your truth. Speak it. You open the scroll and read aloud. The words are simple. Not poetic. Just honest. I feared I was not enough. So I chose silence over action. But now I choose to speak. As you finish, the room fades. You wake on the temple floor, mask removed. Meru stands above you, holding the scroll. You have spoken, he says. And you have been heard. The others emerge shortly after. One looks dazed. The other shaken. But all three of you still stand. Meru raises his staff. The final trial is complete. The priestess approaches with 3 feathers, white, delicate, perfect. She places one in each of your hands. You must carry it to the Hall of Winds. If it floats, the gods accept you. If it falls, the sand will reclaim your name. No pressure. You're led to the Hall of Winds, a tall chamber open at the top, where the desert breeze swirls in playful, unpredictable currents. The floor is marked with circles, one for each of you. You stand in your place, heart pounding. At Meru's signal, you release the feather. It lifts. Slowly. Hesitantly. Then higher. It catches a current and spirals upward, glowing faintly in the sunlight. You exhale. The others do the same. 3 feathers rise. Meru nods, a rare smile breaking through his solemn face. It is done. The silence that follows is unlike any you've experienced. Not empty, not lifeless, just full. Heavy with meaning. It presses down like velvet, thick and soft, muffling even the desert wind. The 3 of you stand in the Hall of Winds, your feathers still rising slowly in the shaft of sunlight, spinning like leaves on an eternal breeze. Meru watches with calm satisfaction. The priestess bows her head, whispering something in a dialect too old for memory. The moment lingers. Then, one by one, the feathers dissolve into the air, vanishing like mist, as if never there at all. But they were. You saw them. You felt them. And something inside you shifted because of it. This is the final mark, Meru says. The gods have seen your truth. Your name will not be forgotten. You're led from the chamber in silence. Not because it's required, but because none of you have words left. It's not victory, exactly. It's more like survival with meaning, a survival that comes at the cost of everything you once assumed about yourself. Outside, the sun has shifted again, casting long shadows across the temple's facade. You realize it's been days, how many, you don't know. Time here flows more like honey than water, thick and slow, dripping without clear rhythm. You arrive in the temple's central court once again. This time, a large circular stone has been uncovered in the center, engraved with a sun disk surrounded by 24 notches, an ancient sundial, perhaps. The priestess leads each of you to a notch and places a small token there. Yours is carved with your name, finally returned to you in full. These will be your measure, she says. Each of you now holds a place in the circle. Then she steps back, and the sun begins to move. Literally. You watch as the shadow cast by the central spire bends unnaturally toward one of the tokens, slow, deliberate, purposeful. It stops on yours. You don't know what that means. But Meru's expression says it all. The gods have chosen you, he says, and for the first time, his voice trembles just a little. You are the speaker, the bearer of memory. You're ushered forward, toward the inner sanctum of the temple, an area sealed until now. The door is flanked by towering statues of Osiris and Isis, arms crossed, faces impassive. As you step closer, they seem to breathe. Not visibly. Not audibly. But you feel the exhale. The door opens with a slow groan. Inside, the chamber is small but dense with presence. Walls covered in golden script. A pool of dark oil at the center. And a stone dais, upon which sits an object covered in linen and sealed with wax. Meru walks beside you, slower now. More careful. This is the archive of silence, he says. It holds the words never spoken, the stories never told. Each bearer is given one chance to read, and one chance to add. You swallow hard. The wax seal crumbles beneath your fingers. The linen falls away, revealing an ancient scroll, older than paper, older than language. You hold it in your hands and feel something click into place, like the weight of all things finally settling where they belong. The text is strange at first. Looped. Fragmented. But the more you read, the more it makes sense. It tells of a city swallowed by sand, a queen betrayed by her own blood, a child lost to silence. And a voice, yours, that would rise again. When the story ends, you realize the final line is blank. You are meant to write it. You reach for the ink. It's thick, made from ground obsidian and something else, something living. The brush is made of ibis feather. Sacred. Soft. You write. I remember, so others may not be lost. And with that, the scroll shivers, then seals itself. The ink vanishes. The story is closed. You place the scroll back on the dais, and the pool of oil begins to swirl. Slowly at first, then faster, forming a whirlpool. From its center, a new object rises, smooth, black stone shaped like a scarab. Meru takes it and presses it into your palm. This is your anchor. As long as you carry it, you carry us. The chamber dims. A door opens in the far wall, a door not seen before. Beyond it, the desert stretches, but not empty. You see tents, people, distant firelight. A world. Real or symbolic, you're not sure. But it's calling. The priestess appears one last time. Some return. Some remain. Some walk between. She places her hand on your shoulder. Which are you? You think about it. You could return to your life, whatever pieces of it still exist. You could stay, become part of the temple, a guardian of memory. Or you could walk between, neither fully here nor there, a story that moves through others. In the end, you smile. I'll walk between. She nods. Then you are ready. You step through the doorway. The sand is warm beneath your feet. The wind brushes your face like an old friend. In the distance, you hear voices, not speaking, but singing. Ancient words. Forgotten names. All carried by the wind. You look back once. The temple is gone. But the memory remains. And so do you. The desert stretches endlessly ahead, but it no longer feels empty. Every grain of sand seems charged with meaning, like a script written in silence, waiting for you to read it. The wind doesn't just blow, it whispers, carries fragments of ancient laughter, half-formed chants, the echo of sandals on temple stone. You walk not as a wanderer now, but as a bearer. Someone who knows the terrain beneath their feet isn't just ground, it's memory. You carry the scarab stone in your palm. It pulses faintly with warmth, like a heartbeat. You don't know if it's yours, or if it belongs to something older that now walks with you. You'd ask Meru, but he's gone. Or rather, he's part of the place now. You suspect he always was. You crest a dune and pause. Below lies a caravan. Tents of deep red and blue ripple in the wind. Fires flicker beside clay jars and woven mats. Figures move about, traders, scribes, maybe even lost souls like yourself. It looks ordinary, but you know better now. Nothing in this desert is ordinary. Everything exists because it remembers. As you descend, a small child runs up to you. Wide eyes, a chipped clay amulet hanging from their neck, and a head full of dust. They stop just short of touching you and point at your hand. Is that a real one? They ask, staring at the scarab. You crouch down. Yes, you say softly. But it's not mine. I'm just holding it for a while. The child nods with the grave seriousness only children and very old souls possess. They run off, but not before whispering, they said someone would come. Inside the caravan, life moves in slow loops. People barter for dates, argue over water rights, sing softly while grinding grain. You blend in easily, no one here expects names. Just stories. And stories you have. At night, a woman offers you a seat by the fire. Her eyes are clouded with age, but her voice cuts clear through the night air. You've seen them, she says without introduction. The ones who watch from behind the stars. You don't respond, but the way your silence hums makes her smile. They always send one back, she continues, warming her hands. So the forgetting doesn't win. She leans closer. You'll tell them, won't you? The ones who've never heard the truth. You nod. Because you know what she means. And because now, you know how. Later, alone in your tent, you take out the scroll Meru gave you, the one you didn't know you were writing until it was done. It's blank again, but only in the visible sense. The words hum beneath the surface, ready to be told. Not written. Spoken. That's when you hear it. A soft chime. It's not a bell. It's not metal. It's the sound of stone tapping against memory. You step outside. The stars are brighter than they've ever been. Arranged in patterns that look almost intentional. You trace one with your finger and realize it mirrors the layout of the temple. Another matches the scarab's etching. And one, far to the east, pulses in time with the beat of your heart. You follow it. Not because you know where it leads. But because that's your role now. To follow what others ignore. To speak what others forget. To remember, not as burden, but as gift. Days pass. Or maybe nights. In this part of the world, time has less to do with clocks and more to do with choices. You help a blind merchant rebuild his tent. You guide a lost priest back to his relics. You sit with a woman as she buries the last of her children, and say nothing, because presence is louder than comfort. And always, you listen. People begin to seek you out. They bring tokens, scraps of stories, broken memories, dreams they can't shake. They offer them with uncertainty, as if unsure if they're worthy of being remembered. You never turn one away. In time, they start calling you the Echo. It's not your name. But it fits. One evening, you're approached by a group of scribes. They've heard rumors of the temple trials. They ask questions, clever ones, academic ones, the kind historians love. You answer some. You leave others to silence. One asks, did it really happen? You tilt your head. What makes a story real, you reply. They write that down. The scarab stone grows heavier with each telling. But it doesn't burden you. It anchors you. Reminds you of the room full of scrolls. Of the door. Of the versions of yourself you faced. Of the one who walked away. You didn't. One night, during a windstorm, a stranger arrives. Cloaked. Silent. They carry a wooden box wrapped in palm fiber. You offer tea. They decline. Instead, they hand you the box. Inside is a mask. Your mask. The one you wore during the trial of truth. The stranger doesn't speak. They simply nod, turn, and vanish into the storm. You understand. The gods aren't finished. The mask is no longer just an object. It's a key. The next morning, the caravan is gone. Or rather, you are. You stand alone in the dunes, the mask in one hand, the scarab in the other. And before you, half buried in sand, is a staircase. Leading down. You don't hesitate. The staircase winds into the earth, deeper than the last temple. Deeper than anything should. The air grows warmer, then colder, then perfectly still. You descend for what feels like hours. At the bottom, a single chamber. Empty. Silent. But waiting. You place the scarab on the altar. The mask beside it. And then you speak. Not a performance. Not a prayer. Just your truth. Your story. The walls begin to glow. Not with flame. With memory. Lines form, slowly, looping and elegant. Hieroglyphs from your voice. The walls become your page. And in the stillness, you realize. You are not the last. Just the next. The chamber doesn't echo. That's the first thing you notice. Despite the stone walls and the silence, your voice is absorbed the moment it leaves your lips. Not lost, just taken, as if the room is swallowing your story with reverence, filing it away like a sacred text in an invisible archive. It feels less like performance, and more like communion. Your words begin to shape the space. The glowing lines that crawl across the walls ripple and shift with each sentence. Not just hieroglyphs now, but images, figures in motion, hands reaching out, doors opening, stars aligning. The chamber isn't just listening, it's responding. It's remembering with you. You pause, breath shallow. You're not tired. You're not scared. But there's weight here. Not the burden of guilt or regret, but the weight of being seen. Truly seen. Every choice, every hesitation, every small mercy and selfish impulse carved into stone not as judgment, but as record. A quiet warmth blooms in your chest. You're not alone. You keep speaking. The memories spill out, some ancient, some recent. The trial of the feather. The question at the stairs. The moment you chose not to open the jar. The face of the child behind the door. You say their name now, softly, letting it drift into the stone. Letting them exist again, if only here. That's when the light changes. One by one, the images dim. Not fading, but settling, like ink drying into permanence. The final symbols slide into place, and the walls stop glowing. The room is still again. Complete. It has taken what it needed, and given you something in return. Clarity. You pick up the scarab and the mask from the altar. Both feel different now, lighter, yet stronger. You realize they aren't tools anymore. They're parts of you. Not props. Symbols. Proof that you went somewhere others don't even believe exists. When you turn toward the staircase, it's gone. Of course it is. In its place, a new opening, this time a narrow passage lined with golden stone, warmer in hue, like the inside of a sunbeam. No wind. No sand. Just quiet anticipation. You step through without fear. Because you're not just a participant anymore. You're something else. A witness. The passage widens, leading into a sanctuary unlike any you've seen. A round chamber, its dome painted with stars, dozens of constellations unfamiliar to you, but somehow comforting. At the center, a pool of clear water reflects the ceiling perfectly. It's a mirror, but deeper. Across the pool, a figure waits. Not Meru. Not the priestess. This one wears no robes, no jewelry, no markings of station. Just a simple white garment and a presence that hums like ancient thunder. Their face is ageless. Their eyes are yours. They gesture to the edge of the pool. Sit, they say. It's time to ask. You sit. What do I ask? You murmur. The figure smiles. Not kindly. Not cruelly. Just knowingly. What you've always wanted to know. You think. There are so many things. Why you were chosen. What you're meant to do now. Whether any of it was real. Whether you were ever truly alone. But in the end, it boils down to something simpler. Was it enough, you whisper? The reflection in the pool shifts. You see yourself walking. Always walking. From memory to memory. Story to story. You see the people who shared your path. The ones who guided, the ones who challenged, the ones who vanished. You see doors you opened and doors you didn't. The figure nods. It was not perfect. It was not clean. But it was true. They reach into the pool and lift a small object, a second scarab, this one made of glass and light. They offer it to you. This is yours now. Not to carry. To plant. You take it. The moment your fingers touch the surface, the chamber fades. Not abruptly. Softly. Like waking from a dream you weren't quite ready to leave. You stand again in the desert. But it's changed. Or maybe you have. The sands shimmer with soft gold. The air hums with silence. In the distance, you see figures, not vague, but solid. People. Some walking. Some waiting. Some building. A new place is forming, shaped by memory and story and silence. You understand now. You're not here to end anything. You're here to begin. You walk toward them, the glass scarab glowing in your hand. Someone spots you and waves. Another smiles. You see the child from the caravan. The priestess. Even Meru, standing beside a new arrival, whispering something that makes them laugh. They don't wave. They don't call. But their presence wraps around you like wind across stone. You stop at the edge of a clearing and kneel. With both hands, you press the scarab into the sand. It sinks, slowly, then disappears. From that spot, a vine grows, green, fragile, but defiant. It stretches upward, then blossoms. A single blue flower. A memory planted. A truth remembered. You rise. You are the echo. You are the one who speaks for those who can't. And somewhere, far above the clouds, in the stillness between stars, something ancient and vast exhales. Because you have done what needed doing. Because you have made it real. You don't stay in the clearing long. The flower you planted, blue, bright, impossibly vibrant, needs no guardian. It pulses with a life of its own, rooted not in water or soil, but in the memory that gave birth to it. You watch it sway once in the breeze, almost like a nod. Then you turn away. The people you saw from the ridge are closer now. Their forms grow sharper with each step. Not just priests or travelers or wanderers. These are builders. Carriers of stone, of parchment, of story. Some chisel glyphs into new walls. Others sing while weaving stories into linen banners. You pass between them, unnoticed yet fully seen. Someone hands you a tool without asking. A brush, stained with ink the color of dusk. Another gestures toward an unfinished mural, half-drawn figure standing before a great sun. You don't need instructions. You know what to do. You step to the wall and begin to paint. Your hand moves instinctively. The brush dances in curved strokes, forming shapes you once struggled to recall. A scarab. A door. A spiral. You're not replicating the past, you're giving it form. Voice. Memory. The wall accepts each line with reverence. Next to you, a woman hums while sketching a jackal-headed figure. She doesn't look up, but says softly, "They say the temple was never real. That it's all metaphor." You pause. And what do you say? She smiles. I say memory always builds the strongest walls. You keep painting. At dusk, fires are lit around the new settlement. Not torches, but low braziers that burn with blue and green flame. The light feels different, cool, restful. It doesn't demand attention. It invites reflection. You sit by one such fire, holding your mask. Its surface reflects the flames, casting your features back at you in layers, the participant, the witness, the storyteller. It no longer feels like a disguise. It feels like a mirror. A small group gathers near the center of the camp. Someone stands atop a smooth stone slab, unrolling a scroll. They speak a name you recognize, someone who walked beside you in the trials. Someone who did not reach the end. They speak not with sadness, but with reverence. Every story shared is a thread stitched back into the world. Every memory spoken aloud is one more brick in the foundation. You are asked to speak. You don't hesitate. You step onto the stone and open your mouth, and the silence that falls over the camp is immediate, expectant, warm. You begin not with a name, but with a sound. A breath. The same breath you took before entering the river. Before placing your stone on the scale. Before choosing to remember. And then the words come. You speak of the trial beneath the temple. Of the weight of the feather. Of the mirrors that lied and told the truth at the same time. Of the question, was it enough? You don't embellish. You don't glorify. You tell it as it was, strange, sacred, terrifying, mundane. A story both eternal and deeply personal. When you finish, no one claps. No one needs to. The air feels different again. Heavier, but in a comforting way. Like a blanket pulled over your shoulders after a long journey. You step down. Later that night, a stranger approaches you. Their face is veiled, their posture unsure. I think I dreamed of the temple once, they say. But I don't remember the trials. Only a question. What was it, you ask? The stranger hesitates. It asked if I would choose to be remembered, or to remember others. You nod slowly. And what did you answer? They smile, shy and quiet. I chose others. I think that's why I found this place. You don't say anything, but inside, something clicks. Another stone in the unseen wall. Another flower waiting to be planted. That night, your dreams are quieter. No visions. No trials. Just wind across stone and the rustle of scrolls being unrolled. You see hands, dozens of them, writing by firelight. Not copying. Not inventing. Recording. Remembering. You wake before sunrise and find yourself standing near the edge of the settlement, looking east. The sun is beginning to rise. You think of the Hall of Winds, the scarab, the whisper of feathers in flight. You think of the people who walked beside you. The ones who remain silent, but are never forgotten. You touch your mask, then let it fall gently onto the sand. It has served its purpose. You no longer need to wear the story. You are the story. Behind you, someone begins to sing. Softly. A hymn in a language without words. The sound carries over the dunes, weaving into the sunrise like thread into linen. Others join, not in harmony, but in memory. And you walk forward, barefoot in the morning sand, toward a place that doesn't yet exist. But will. Because you remember. The desert morning holds its breath as you walk, no birds, no wind, only the quiet crunch of your steps in the cool sand. Behind you, the settlement fades into distance, swallowed not by dust, but by perspective. You don't look back. You don't need to. What's behind you is now part of the world, rooted like the blue flower you left blooming in silence. Ahead lies something new. You don't know what, exactly. Just that it's waiting. The sun climbs higher, casting long shadows from the low ridges and scattered stones. Shapes emerge, a broken obelisk, half-buried statues, fragments of some long-forgotten road. You follow the ruins not because they promise direction, but because they offer rhythm. A trail of lost things, leading to the next story. At midday, you find the well. It's ancient, but still functional. The stones around it are smooth from centuries of hands drawing water, and the rope, replaced again and again, creaks with a memory all its own. You lower the bucket and draw up a silence so deep it tastes sweet. Water splashes onto your hands, your lips. It feels like permission. You sit there for a while, watching heat ripple across the distance. And that's when you notice her. She's seated on a nearby stone, dressed in white, eyes closed. Not asleep, but listening. You're sure she wasn't there a moment ago. You've come far, she says, not opening her eyes. I keep walking, you reply. That's what I do now. She nods. And what do you seek? The question stops you more than it should. You think of the temple, the trials, the stories shared and buried. You think of the scarab, now gone, and the mask, left behind. For a moment, you're unsure how to answer. I want to find the places where memory has failed, you say slowly. And listen. Her eyes open. They are not ordinary. They shimmer, not with light, but with depth. Then you'll need a new name, she says. She stands and hands you a small object, smooth, round, and etched with a glyph you've never seen before. It's a spiral enclosed in a circle, like a fingerprint made of meaning. You don't recognize it, but it feels familiar. You are the listener now, she says. And your journey changes here. She turns and walks away, vanishing behind a dune with the finality of a forgotten dream. You remain seated, clutching the token. It's warm. Not magically, but humanly. As if it has passed through many hands to reach yours. Later, you follow a new path, not a road, but a series of raised stones that form an uneven trail through the dunes. Along the way, you notice more ruins. Fragments of frescoes. Bits of song carved into the rock. Someone, many someones, once lived and spoke and hoped here. You pause beside one carving. It shows a boat, a river, a hand reaching into the sky. Beneath it is a line of script, let the forgotten be remembered through you. You whisper it aloud. That night, you find shelter in a broken columned hall, half covered in sand. There's no roof, but the walls still stand, covered in faded blue paint and crumbling gold leaf. You build a small fire and sit in its light, the spiral token resting beside you. You dream again. This time, the dream is calm. You walk through a city made entirely of memory. The buildings are formed from songs, the streets paved with stories. Every door opens with a word. Every window shows a past someone needed to forget. In the center of the city stands a tree. You approach it, knowing it's not really a tree, but the idea of one. It blooms with pages, not leaves. When the wind blows, it rustles with whispers, each one a name. You reach out to touch the trunk, and wake up. Morning. The sky is clear, the sand cool. You gather your things and continue. You walk with a new sense of direction, not driven by destination, but by need. You don't know where the next story waits, but you know you'll hear it. Because now, you are the listener. Along the road, a boy joins you. Maybe 10 years old, barefoot, with eyes like flint and a quiet curiosity. He says nothing, just matches your pace. You don't ask why. You understand. By the end of the day, another joins. An old woman with a basket of stones, each one etched with a name. She hums lullabies in a language you've never heard, but somehow remember. You make camp that night beside a rock shaped like a sleeping lion. The others sit around the fire, adding wood, passing stories, watching stars. No one leads. No one commands. But the fire grows brighter with every memory shared. You listen. And the next morning, when the caravan begins to grow, you don't question it. More travelers join. A girl with a book of unfinished poems. A man who lost his voice but speaks in ink. A pair of twins who remember each other's dreams. You never intended to gather followers. But stories pull people the way rivers pull stones, slowly, relentlessly, until they smooth and fit together. One night, you find a new scroll at your feet. No one claims to have written it. Inside is a single phrase, "Keep walking." We'll follow the silence. You smile, fold it carefully, and tuck it beneath your robe. The road you walk is no longer yours alone. Each morning, more faces appear, travelers without maps, seekers without questions, simply drawn by something they can't quite name. Some stay only a day. Others fall into step beside you for weeks, saying little, sharing meals and silences with equal comfort. None ask where you're going. Everyone seems to understand that the journey itself is the destination. The caravan has become a kind of whisper in motion, soft, low, but undeniable. Villages you pass greet you like a passing storm, unsure whether to seek shelter or step outside and let the wind speak. You bring no commandments, no miracles. Only memory. And memory, it turns out, is more powerful than prophecy. In one town, a woman hands you a carved ivory comb. "My daughters," she says. "She used to braid my hair before the fever took her. I don't want her to be forgotten." You take it. You listen. You hold the memory for her. And when you leave, she stands taller, as if someone lifted a weight she didn't know she was carrying. In another, an old man asks you to sit with him. He has no stories, just silence. So you sit. For hours. No words. Just presence. When you rise to leave, he places his hand over his heart and nods once. That is enough. Your companions begin to keep their own journals, scrolls, tablets, cloths inked with charcoal or colored sand. They record what they see, not to remember, but to share. One carries a flute and begins composing songs from fragments of overheard conversations. Another sketches dreams before they vanish at dawn. You never asked for this. You never wanted to lead. But somehow, by walking, you've built something. A few nights later, you reach a crossroads. Not a metaphorical one, a literal split in the earth, marked by two stone pillars covered in glyphs. One path continues east, toward the mountains. The other dips south, toward the marshlands where no trail exists. The air smells of salt and flowers. The group stops. They look to you. You kneel, placing the spiral token on the ground between the paths. The glyph glows faintly, responding not to power, but to intention. The wind shifts. A flock of birds lifts into the sky and flies south. That's your answer. You lead them into the marsh. The terrain is difficult, wet, shifting, alive in ways the desert never was. The air hums with insects, and strange lights flicker over the water at night. You travel by day and rest in raised huts offered by silent fisherfolk who don't speak, but always seem to be waiting for you. In one village, a child shows you a basket woven with reed and shell. It was my brother's, they say. He disappeared during the flood. The elders say his soul became a heron. That night, you dream of a boy flying above the marshes with long wings and curious eyes. When you wake, you hum a song you didn't know you knew. The child hums it too. The group changes here. More dreamers join. Fewer words are spoken. More symbols drawn. You begin to understand that not all stories need voice. Some are written into the ground itself, into the curl of a fern, the shape of a cloud, the pattern of ripples in still water. One evening, you reach the center of the marsh. It doesn't look like much, just a clearing with a circle of reeds bent inwards by the wind. But everyone feels it. The hush. The breath held between what was and what could be. You remove the spiral token again and press it into the damp earth. The clearing responds. A pool forms in the center, as still as glass. Around it, the reeds part in a perfect ring. Light pours down from above, no sun, just light. It feels like being remembered. You step to the edge of the pool. Inside, your reflection is not alone. You see the others, those who walked with you, those who spoke their truth in temples and tombs. You see the child behind the door. The feather on the scale. The door you opened. The truth you spoke. All of it, there. Alive. Breathing. Behind you, your companions begin to sing. Soft. Wordless. A harmony built from silence. You kneel and place the comb in the water. The ivory sinks slowly, vanishing without a ripple. A light breeze stirs the reeds. Somewhere in the distance, a heron cries once, then is silent. The water glows. You take the flute player's scroll, the sketcher's dreams, the journals filled with laughter and firelight. One by one, you place them around the pool. Each offering becomes a light, rising and spiraling upward like fireflies on a forgotten night. The pool accepts them all. Then someone places your mask beside the others. You didn't bring it. You hadn't seen it since you left it in the sand. And yet, it's here. The others step back. The wind pauses. The water stills. You know what to do. You walk into the pool. There is no splash. No resistance. The water rises around you like a second skin, warm and gentle. You submerge, eyes open. Light surrounds you. Voices. Images. The stories you've carried, yours and theirs, wrap around you like threads of golden linen. And then, quiet. Stillness. Peace. When you emerge, you are not changed. You are revealed. To yourself. To them. To whatever watches from behind the stars. You step from the pool. The group kneels, not in worship, but in witness. The spiral token hums softly in your hand. The listener walks forward, and the world listens back. The morning after the pool, everything feels different. Not louder or brighter, just sharper, more precise. The air smells of wet stone and soft ash. The breeze carries messages in the reeds, and you now understand them. Not as language, but as intent. As memory written without ink. The group rises without being called. No plans are made, no orders given. Still, they pack their things, smother the fire, and begin to walk. South, deeper into lands no map has ever truly captured. The pool lies behind, glowing faintly like a distant moon, gently pulling the past into stillness. You walk at the center now, not at the front. Others lead with you. Their feet know the rhythm. Their steps echo a truth you no longer need to explain. You are not a guide. You are the story mid-sentence, and they walk to hear how it ends. For days, you move through wetlands, over stone ridges and between forested shadows. Your dreams are quiet now, filled not with trials or symbols, but with firelight, laughter, and the feeling of hands pressed together before parting. You carry no new relics. Only the spiral token, now dark and cool, sleeping again. Waiting. In a grove of acacia trees, you pause. There's something here. Not a presence, exactly, more like an echo. A memory not yours, but strong enough to feel real. You touch a tree trunk, and your hand tingles. The bark peels slightly, revealing carvings hidden beneath the surface. Names. Dozens of them. All written in the looping glyphs of an age long erased from public record. One of your companions, the old woman with the lullabies, steps forward. They waited here, she says softly. Before the flood. You nod. You don't ask how she knows. Some memories are inherited. The group forms a circle, not by instruction, but instinct. Each person holds something, a keepsake, a word, a dream half remembered. One by one, they step forward and press their memory into the tree. Not literally. Symbolically. Some whisper. Some sing. One simply breathes and walks away. When it's your turn, you kneel. You say nothing. You only listen. The tree responds with silence, not emptiness, but sacred quiet. The kind that wraps around you like a warm cloth. The kind that doesn't need translation. When you rise, the spiral token pulses once in your hand. That night, the group shares food without ceremony. Dried figs, salted fish, honey-smeared bread. The kind of meal that doesn't mark a celebration, but makes one anyway. Someone begins a story. Another interrupts with a correction. Laughter follows. The kind that sneaks out before anyone realizes it's allowed. The child who once hummed your dream song now teaches it to a bird. You lie back against the roots of the memory tree, watching the stars flicker behind drifting clouds. They don't look distant anymore. They look curious. Closer than they should be. Somewhere in the distance, drums echo, not rhythmic, but pulsing. Like a heartbeat. Not a threat. An invitation. The next morning, you follow the sound. The land begins to rise. The air changes. Fresher. Cleaner. As if it's been untouched for longer than time itself. You pass standing stones, worn smooth by wind and story. Birds wheel above in lazy spirals, calling down riddles in sharp syllables only the wind seems to answer. At the summit, you find it. A circle of stone seats, carved into the earth, facing inward toward a shallow basin filled with sand. Each seat bears a glyph, and some are worn away. But others glow faintly, recently remembered. This is the circle of return. Not a council. Not a court. A place where stories speak themselves. You sit. So does the old woman. The child. The sketcher. The flute player. One by one, more fill the seats. Some you've never seen before. Others you recognize not from life, but from dreams. A man with a scar where his mouth should be. A woman who walks with the limp of remembered guilt. In the center, the sand begins to stir. You hear no voice. You speak no words. But the story begins. Not yours. Theirs. The circle becomes a living archive. Each grain of sand lifts into the air, forming images, scenes. Moments. Not edited or cleaned. Just raw. Real. One shows a hand reaching into fire for a sibling's toy. Another shows a mother turning away at a forked path. Regrets. Courage. Failures. Sacrifices. Each scene plays only once. And when it ends, it falls back into the sand, leaving no trace but weight in the chest. Someone sobs softly. Someone else whispers thanks. You watch your own memory unfold, a silent walk through a corridor of eyes. The voice asking, do you accept it? Your response, not spoken, but lived. The scene ends. And then the circle stills. You rise. You take the spiral token and press it into the sand. It vanishes. In its place, a single sprig of myrrh grows. Fragrant. Unmistakable. A woman across from you nods. She stands. She offers her flute. Another lays down a ring. Another, a page. None speak. And that's how it begins again. The circle becomes a place of passing. Not of power, but of presence. Those who walk memory now find their way here. And each one adds something. A token. A truth. A piece of the story. By nightfall, the basin glows with offerings. Not trophies. Not proof. Reminders. That what is remembered lives. That the forgotten can still return. And that somewhere out in the shifting dunes, a listener once walked, and left space for others to speak. The circle becomes a home, not permanent, not fixed, but reliable in the way the moon is reliable, always shifting but never gone. You remain for a while. Days stretch into weeks. Not because you're tired, but because the silence here is fertile. It doesn't weigh you down, it invites. And people come. They come from cities built on sand, from forests that hum with ancient songs, from mountains so high they touch the memory of stars. They don't come for you. They come for the story. And you, now, are part of it. Each new arrival brings an offering. Some carry relics, a broken blade, a woven pouch, a cracked tile etched with forgotten script. Others bring nothing at all, just silence waiting to be witnessed. The circle accepts all equally. Every voice, every silence, every breath. Even forgetting has a place here. One evening, the wind shifts. You feel it before you hear it. A new current, cooler, sharper, threading through the reeds and stones like a whisper from something far beyond the dunes. You step outside the circle and look to the horizon. There, a figure approaches. Alone. They walk slowly, but not uncertainly. A long staff in hand, wrapped in white linen. When they reach the edge of the grove, they stop. You recognize them. Not from the temple, not from the dreams, but from the space between both. The stranger lifts the staff and speaks. The gods are listening again. Their voice is dry, cracked by wind and age. But strong. They've heard the echo. You don't respond. Not yet. Because the words carry weight. Not threat. Not warning. Just gravity. What do they want, you ask finally. The stranger lowers the staff. They want to remember. They want someone to tell them who they were. For a moment, the fire in your chest flickers. You think of the golden thrones around the basin, of the feather on your palm, of the silence behind the stars. It hadn't occurred to you that even gods could forget. You nod. Then we must go. The circle doesn't dissolve. It doesn't close. It simply waits, living in the grove, fed by every offering left in the sand. Your companions understand. They've always understood. You gather only what you must, a satchel, a scroll, the memories woven into your clothing. The road to the old temple begins at midnight. This time, you don't walk alone. The stranger walks beside you, not speaking, but radiating presence. Behind you, a smaller caravan follows, those ready to bear witness, not to a trial, but to a conversation older than time. A wind rises at your back, pushing you forward. Encouraging. Remembering. As dawn nears, the dunes change. The landscape grows quieter. Even the air begins to hush itself, as though preparing for something sacred. The sky grays at the edges, not with clouds, but with memory. Then you see it. The Temple of Echoes. You wouldn't have recognized it, except that it feels familiar. Not identical to the one you entered so long ago, but shaped like its shadow. Columns lean at odd angles. Walls ripple with inscriptions too fluid to be static. It breathes. Or perhaps, it listens. You cross the threshold. Inside, it's cooler. Quieter. The sound of your footsteps disappears almost instantly. The walls shimmer, not with gold, but with something deeper, an ever-shifting mosaic of images that flicker in and out of focus. A mother's touch. A forgotten king's cry. A drop of blood on stone. All memories. The stranger leads you to the central hall. There, where once stood the pool of judgment, now lies a circle of obsidian. Flat. Perfect. Unbroken. It reflects nothing. Not even you. The gods will arrive in silence, the stranger says. As they did before there were names. You sit at the edge of the circle. One by one, your companions take their place around you. Not on thrones. On the floor. Equal. Present. Ready. The stranger steps into the circle. They do not speak. Instead, they remove the wrappings from their staff, revealing it to be a scepter, simple, carved with the eye of Ra and the spiral of return. They place it on the floor, and it begins to hum. The chamber darkens. Then, without sound, the light changes. 12 shapes appear around the circle. Not bodies. Presences. They do not glow. They do not move. They exist. And they wait. The stranger turns to you. Speak. And so you do. You begin with silence, 3 breaths. One for what was. One for what is. One for what must be remembered. Then you tell them. Not as a supplicant. Not as a priest. As a listener. You tell them of the journey. Of the stories spoken in groves and on stone, of the offerings laid at crossroads, of the child who taught a bird to sing. Of the trials endured not in pain, but in memory. You tell them of the forgotten. Of the ones who were never named in stone, but lived full lives. Of the mothers who carried grief in silence, of the builders whose hands shaped temples others took credit for, of the children who grew up without songs written for them. You do not blame. You remind. Because that is what the gods asked for. The chamber remains still. But the circle begins to glow, not bright, not burning. Just warm. Like the firelight at the end of a long story. One of the presences leans closer. Not a voice. A feeling. They say, "We forgot who we were." You answer, "We never did." And just like that, the circle ripples. A single echo rises, clear, soft, endless. The gods remember. And the temple breathes again. The light within the temple shifts, subtle, like dawn breaking in slow motion. The air grows warmer, richer, as if each breath now carries centuries of stories long buried beneath sand and silence. The obsidian circle in the center no longer reflects absence. It glows gently with presence, like ink catching light. Around you, the shapes remain. The presences. The gods, if they still wear that name. They do not move, and yet their listening deepens. You feel it, not with your ears, but with something deeper. Like standing beside a river too wide to cross but hearing it whisper your name. You lower your head, not in reverence, but in recognition. You are not here to teach them. You are here to remind them. Not of power or myth, but of story. The kind that holds 1,000 truths at once. The kind that lives in ordinary moments, a shared glance, a hand held during sickness, the sound of laughter between grief. The stranger kneels beside the circle, palms up. Their scepter lies flat, forgotten now, like a tool no longer needed once the craft is understood. They say nothing. They only listen. The others follow suit, forming a ring of breath and memory. You close your eyes and speak again. You tell the story of the trial beneath the temple, the moment when you asked, "Was it enough?" and the answer that came not from words, but from reflection. You speak of the door you opened, the tree of names, the circle of return. You describe the child who gave you a song, and how that song echoed through others, long after the child had gone. As you speak, the presences seem to flicker, not fading, but transforming. Less like towering forces, more like watchers becoming witnesses. You realize something important: they are not above memory. They are shaped by it, dependent on it. Even gods need someone to remember them. One of the figures leans in, not physically, but energetically. You feel its question more than hear it. What happens now? You pause. There is no script for this. No ritual to fall back on. No prophecy to fulfill. Just choice. You rise to your feet and step into the obsidian circle. The warmth doesn't burn. It envelops, like a memory finally accepted. You kneel and place your palm flat against the surface. "I give you what I was given," you say. Not worship. Not obedience. Just remembrance. Your hand leaves a mark. Not a burn. A spiral. Faint, glowing. Another presence answers, not in words, but in gesture. A soft pulse radiates through the floor, rising up your arm and into your chest. Not possession. Permission. They are letting go of something. Giving it to you. A name. Not yours. Theirs. One they had forgotten. You hold it carefully, and then offer your own. The temple reacts. Light spills outward from the spiral. Not blinding, golden, soft, like the glow of a fire at story's end. The presences rise. Or dissolve. Or merge. It's hard to tell. They are not gone. But they are no longer above you. They are within the memory now, part of it. You stand alone in the circle. The chamber is silent. But it no longer feels empty. Behind you, your companions watch, not waiting for instruction, but for closure. For something to signal that what needed to be done is done. You step forward and retrieve the spiral token from the sand at your feet. It is whole again. Not worn. Not dulled. New. A beginning, not an end. You bow your head once more, not to the gods, but to the silence they left behind. Then you turn and walk toward your people. No trumpets. No chorus. Just a simple truth settling into place. The story continues. The journey back from the temple is not retracing, it's reweaving. Every dune you cross feels different now, as if the desert recognizes your steps and folds its silence around them like a soft cloak. The wind no longer sings warnings or riddles. It carries memory gently, like breath blown across embers. Your companions walk beside you in thoughtful quiet. There's no need for conversation. The story you carried has settled into them, not as spectators, but as keepers. They don't look to you for meaning. They look inward, and you see it, the quiet reshaping of their posture, the way they pause a beat longer before speaking. At night, the fire is smaller, closer. You sit with them in a circle, not as a storyteller, but as one of many voices humming in the same key. Someone begins a song you've never heard, but the words come to you as if remembered from a life before this one. You hum along, and when the fire cracks at the right moment, everyone laughs without knowing why. By the third morning, you feel the shift again. It's in the way the sky brightens not with light, but with clarity. In the way the sand no longer hides your footprints, but preserves them, holding each one like a word on the page. You've become part of this story, and now the land reads you back. The circle of return greets you with blooming silence. No one has touched it since you left, Yet new offerings rest gently in the basin. A single olive branch. A folded piece of woven cloth. A stone etched with the glyph for weight. These weren't left by your caravan. They were left by others. Proof that remembrance continues without command. You sit at the edge of the circle. The token, now whole and warm in your palm, feels heavier, not with burden, but with meaning. It's not a tool anymore. It's a key. You place it gently beside the pool and feel the ground hum softly beneath your feet. A voice speaks beside you. The old woman with the lullabies. I saw your reflection in the fire last night, she says. You weren't alone. You nod. You saw it too. In the flicker, you saw the priestess of Sekhmet. The child by the pool. Even Meru, watching with that quiet certainty. You realize then, you never stopped being in the temple. The temple never stopped being in you. A boy asks, will the gods come back again? You smile. They never left. They're just listening. Later, the boy draws a spiral in the sand and fills it with small stones. He doesn't explain it. No one asks him to. You walk through the camp as twilight comes, stopping where you're needed. A woman asks you to bless a bundle of papyrus. A scribe asks for a story to finish his scroll. A child asks if you can help her remember her grandmother's voice. You do none of these things with ritual. You do them by listening. That night, the stars shimmer closer. You lie beneath them, eyes open, wondering not about your path, but about the ones still to come. The ones whose names you don't yet know. The ones who will walk into memory one step at a time and find their voice in the dust. The next morning, the token glows once more. You take it in your hand, and this time, it pulls gently, not backward or forward, but inward. Toward the center of the grove. A new spiral has formed in the earth, not made by tools or hands. Formed by walking, by gathering, by circling truths. You kneel at its center. And you plant the token. The ground accepts it, wrapping it in silence. From the soil, something stirs. Not instantly. Slowly. A sprout, green and firm, pushing upward. You know it will grow, not into a tree, but into a space, a place where stories root themselves and bloom in whoever steps close enough to listen. The old woman places her hand on your shoulder. You've walked the story, she says. Now it walks without you. You rise. Not to leave. To become part of the spiral. And somewhere beneath your feet, the silence remembers your name. The spiral grows. Not in height or color, but in presence. Each day, its tendrils reach farther into the earth, curling like thought made tangible. It doesn't demand attention, but no one can pass without pausing. Even the youngest travelers fall into quiet when they approach it, as though some deep part of them knows, this is where memory lives now. You remain close, not as guardian, but as anchor. People come not to you, but to the space. They bring fragments, songs with missing verses, stories cut off mid-sentence, dreams that left nothing but emotion behind. They sit beside the spiral, place their memories gently, and let them settle. Some wait to be acknowledged. Others offer what they've carried and leave immediately, lighter than before. It's not a ritual. It's not a confession. It's a restoration. You watch the stories return to the soil, layer upon layer of truth that never needed permission to exist. Then, one morning, someone new arrives. She wears a robe the color of river stone and walks with the certainty of someone who's forgotten very little. Her eyes scan the spiral, then rest on you, or not with recognition, but with invitation. I've come to remember a name, she says. You guide her to the center. She kneels without hesitation and pulls a small bundle from her satchel. Inside is a stone, a pale one, smooth and worn, engraved with only the curve of a half circle. Not a full glyph. Just a gesture. She sets it down and whispers a name so softly the breeze nearly steals it. Then she steps back and waits. You feel it, before it happens, the spiral pulse, faint but steady, rising from the ground like a heartbeat caught in stone. A light breeze stirs the leaves overhead, and the name she spoke lingers, suspended in the stillness like a thread not yet woven. The woman looks to you. Will they hear it? You place your hand to the soil. The warmth is gentle, but firm. They already have. She nods, once, and walks away. That night, the spiral glows faintly under the starlight. No fire is needed. People gather around it, not for warmth, but for presence. Someone hums. Another begins a quiet chant. No lyrics, just syllables passed down through generations like a song without a source. You lie among them, watching the spiral center pulse softly, like the memory of breath. You think of the stranger at the temple, of the gods in silence, of the name that now sleeps beneath the earth. And for the first time, you allow yourself to rest, not just sleep, but to rest. In the days that follow, others begin shaping small spirals around the grove. Not copies. Echoes. Each one slightly different, of a spiral of feathers, a spiral of ash, a spiral carved into a clay pot and placed beside the fire. They're not recreating what you planted. They're remembering it in their own way. You wander between them, offering only silence, a nod, a shared look. The stories now belong to them. And you? You are still listening, but less to voices, more to the silence between. Then one evening, just as the sun dips behind the dunes, a child walks up to you holding a broken reed flute. Can you fix it? You take the flute in your hands. The crack runs along its spine like a scar. It still smells of the marshlands. You try a note. It sputters, but tries. I don't think it wants to be fixed, you say. I think it wants to sing differently. The child blinks. How? You hand the flute back. Try breathing through the crack. He does. The sound is strange, thin, airy, trembling. But beautiful. He laughs. That night, he plays by the fire. And the spiral listens. The grove begins to shift again, not in structure, but in essence. You feel it each morning as you wake, the way the wind curves more gently through the reeds, how the light filters with greater purpose through the canopy. Even the silences seem to deepen, no longer empty but full of things that don't need to be said. The spiral doesn't grow larger, but the space around it expands in meaning. People no longer ask you for stories. They bring their own. They come from mountains, from coastlines, from cities carved into cliffs. They come carrying stone jars, faded scrolls, or just the rhythm of their own feet on earth. They sit near the spiral, speak their truths aloud or in whispers, and leave them to settle in the soil. You become less of a guide, and more of a reflection. When they speak, you listen. When they falter, you hold space. You don't respond with advice or parables. You echo their memories back to them, not with words, but with stillness. And in that stillness, they find what they came for. One morning, a girl arrives with a bowl of black sand. She says nothing. She kneels at the edge of the spiral and lets the sand trickle through her fingers, grain by grain. When it's gone, she traces a single line across the earth. Then she looks at you and smiles. She never says a word. But she returns every day. Another visitor, a man wrapped in desert robes, comes bearing a jar sealed with wax. He doesn't open it. He places it near the spiral and steps back. You can feel it humming, quietly, like an unspoken apology. On the third night, it dissolves into dust without sound, and a sapling sprouts in its place. He bows and walks into the dunes. These moments build upon each other, layering meaning like sediment beneath a slow-moving river. The grove becomes a map, not of places, but of memories. Each path, each stone, each offering adds to the constellation of stories that grows without a center, but with deep cohesion. And then, one night, the wind changes. It arrives with a hush so vast, it stills every movement in the grove. The fire burns low. The people stop speaking. Even the reeds freeze in place, caught mid-drift like breath held in reverence. A new presence enters the space. You feel it before you see it, like the weight of time pressing gently on your shoulders. Then, from between the trees, steps a figure cloaked in dark linen, its face hidden beneath a hood stitched with the spiral. It does not speak. It simply stands beside the spiral, hands outstretched. You rise. You don't need to ask why they've come. The air has already told you. This is not a stranger. This is the bearer of forgetting, the one who gathers stories too heavy to be carried any longer. Not an eraser. A keeper. They gesture to the spiral. You kneel and place both hands on the earth. The ground pulses beneath your palms. Not painful. Not even sad. Just release. The stories here have been told. Now they must be sealed, not to be lost, but to be allowed to rest. The figure steps into the center of the spiral. The reeds sway inward. The light dims. And then, for one long breath, the grove is silent. Not still. Silent. A silence so complete, it becomes presence. And when that silence lifts, the figure is gone. But the spiral has changed. Its center is no longer open soil. It's stone now, smooth, dark, warm to the touch. Etched with names that shift as you try to read them. Not hidden. Just known. As if the spiral no longer needs to speak because it has become memory itself. You rise, your hand still tingling. People begin to move again, slowly, reverently. The grove is quieter now, but not from sorrow. From respect. The stories remain, but they are no longer being told. They are resting. And so are you. You sit at the edge of the new stone, your eyes following the spiral outward. You remember the temple, the boat across the Nile, the feather in your palm. You remember Meru's quiet wisdom, the trial of truth, the scarab glowing in your hand. You remember planting the spiral, and how it grew not through power, but presence. And you know now. This was never a story about gods. It was about people. People who remembered. People who listened. People who dared to speak into silence. Behind you, the camp begins to dissolve. Not vanish, dissolve. Slowly, peacefully, as people begin to walk in new directions. Some alone. Some in pairs. Some toward cities. Others toward deserts. A few remain behind, to tend the spiral, to guide the next wanderer, to listen. You are no longer needed. But you are not forgotten. As you stand, the grove shifts slightly beneath your feet, like a gentle breath. The spiral hums once, low, deep, final. And you take your first step into the world again, not as a listener, not as a bearer, but as someone who knows. Even silence is a form of memory. And it's time for new stories to begin. You walk without a map now, only the soft compass of intuition turning gently within you. The wind no longer guides, it watches. The sand no longer obscures, it offers. And the stars above don't speak, but they seem to nod in quiet approval. You are not walking away from something. You are walking with it, carrying a memory so fully absorbed it feels like breath. The days are long but not heavy. Each moment is unhurried, shaped not by urgency but by invitation. You find yourself moving through places that feel half-dreamed, villages carved into cliffs, where people plant stories in the walls, oasis towns where every well has a name and every name a song. You never announce your presence. Somehow, they already know. In one village, a young woman leads you to an old fig tree and says nothing. She sits beside it, waiting. You join her. After an hour, she speaks. He carved my name here when we were children. He drowned before we grew old enough to forget each other. You touch the bark and feel it pulse faintly, soft memory, not tragic, not glorified. Just true. She asks if it can be remembered. You don't answer with words. You trace your finger over the name and nod. Later, before leaving, she presses a smooth stone into your palm. Take it where you're going, she whispers. Tell him we still laugh sometimes. So you carry it. Elsewhere, in a town built between two rivers, a boy hands you a jar of salt. My mother said she cried so much when I was born that she filled this. He smiles. I think that's a good thing. You don't question him. You take the jar and place it in the wind one evening. It catches a song you hadn't heard before, one that smells like rain and rosemary. The world, it seems, is full of these offerings now. Not sacred relics. Just truths people needed to set down so they could keep walking. You never promised to hold them all. You only listen. And somehow, that becomes enough. One afternoon, you find yourself alone again. Not lonely, just alone. The path bends through a canyon, the rocks whispering in languages older than script. You follow the bend, and there it is. A door. Not grand, not carved. Just a slab of wood leaning within a stone arch. No handle. No inscription. But you know this door. You've seen it in dreams, in visions, in echoes. You've walked past it before. But now, it waits for you. You don't knock. You step through. And find yourself in darkness. But not absence. This is the darkness of deep earth, of dreamless sleep, of ink before the pen moves. You breathe in, and the air feels like warm breath pressed against your neck. And then, slowly, light begins to rise, not from above, but from within. You are standing in a room with no walls, only memory. You see the girl with the sand. The boy with the cracked flute. The elder who sang to the fire. The feather on your hand. The scarab pulsing. Meru's voice whispering, you were chosen. All of it is here. Not replaying. Not testing. Just present. As if the room itself has become the soul of your journey. And at its center, a pedestal. Upon it rests an object, a book. Unmarked, bound in worn leather, warm to the touch. You open it, and the pages are blank. But they wait. You look around. There's no one else. No gods, no witnesses. Just you. And so, for the first time in what feels like forever, you speak not for others. You speak for yourself. You begin to write. Not for history. Not for proof. But for release. You write your journey, not the details, but the essence. Not the names, but the feelings. The small acts. The quiet shifts. The exact moment you realized silence could speak louder than any hymn. When the final page is filled, the ink vanishes. The book closes itself. The pedestal sinks into the floor. And a voice, not external, but yours, says, "You may rest now." The door reappears behind you. You pass through it. The sun greets you kindly. The wind tousles your hair like an old friend. You find a rock, warm and smooth, and sit. You don't move for a long time. Eventually, a traveler passes. They ask if you're a guide. You shake your head. "I'm a page." The traveler tilts their head. "A what?" "A page," you say. In a book someone will one day open and feel less alone. The traveler smiles and walks on. You stay seated, watching the sky as it turns gold, then rose, then ink. And somewhere far behind the dunes, the spiral hums in contentment. The next morning, you rise with no destination, just a rhythm, steady as breath, quiet as thought. You walk not to arrive, but to remain in motion. The land welcomes you like an old friend, soft light on stone paths, wind threading between cliffs, the occasional blossom opening just as you pass. You no longer look for signs. The world speaks clearly now, even in silence. Villagers greet you with nods instead of questions. Children point, but don't approach. Elders smile and keep sweeping their thresholds, as though they've been expecting you their whole lives. You are no longer a stranger. You are a story returned to them, familiar, even if unread. They offer food without words. You accept it with the same reverence. In one small courtyard, a woman presses a folded cloth into your hands. "This was my brother's," she says. "He forgot who he was before he left. But I remember. And I want you to carry it, in case memory needs a companion." You take it, not because it's yours to carry, but because she asked it to be heard. Later, you sit beneath a fig tree and unfold the cloth. Inside is a single thread of gold, stitched with great care. No name. Just a pattern, a spiral. You smile and trace it with your fingertip. The wind shifts, almost playfully, and you tuck the cloth into your satchel alongside the salt jar, the smooth stone, and the story only you can hold. You pass through a narrow canyon where the walls are painted with fading pigments, hunters, birds, rivers flowing in patterns that echo your own memories. You pause before one image, a figure with open hands, standing beneath a swirling sky. No caption. No shrine. But you feel it. It's not a god. It's a listener. One night, you dream of the temple again, not as it was, but as it could be. It stands taller, surrounded by gardens, with water flowing through carved channels and light dancing across its walls. The gods are not throned. They walk among people, wearing dust and laughter. And the spiral glows not from the floor, but from the palms of everyone who enters. You wake before sunrise, your cheeks wet with tears you didn't feel fall. It's not sadness. It's release. You continue walking. At a crossroads of wind and shadow, you find a stone cairn. Not large, but carefully built, each rock painted with a name or a symbol. You add one, a small pebble, unmarked. You set it down and whisper, for the ones who were never written. The cairn hums once. You move on. One day, you find a boy writing in the sand. He's muttering a story to himself, forgetting parts, making up others. When he sees you, he scrambles to his feet. "I didn't mean to copy you," he says quickly. "I just wanted to remember something, and my mother said there was a person who listens." You sit beside him. "Tell me what you're trying to remember," you say. He takes a deep breath. "It was the last thing my grandfather said. Something about a boat and a name." He frowns. "But I think I forgot the name." You nod. Sometimes remembering isn't about the name. It's about the boat. He stares at you for a long moment, then grins. "I think he said the boat would know." "Then maybe it already does," you reply. He presses his palm into the sand and leaves an imprint beside his story. Then he runs off, leaving the words behind. You don't erase them. You add a spiral beside them. You pass through a market where no one speaks your language, but everyone offers you something, a fig, a flower, a folded bit of cloth. You leave nothing in return but a smile. And somehow, that seems like enough. That night, under a crescent moon, you finally stop walking. You sit at the edge of a bluff, looking out over the desert and ocean of time. You take out the cloth, the salt jar, the stone, the flute, the tokens of stories half spoken. One by one, you set them before you, letting the wind arrange them however it chooses. And then, you listen. Not to words. To the space between them. To the gentle, eternal breath of memory as it folds and unfolds across the land. To the sound of forgetting made gentle. To the whisper of stories still coming. You close your eyes and rest. The wind is soft now, slow and rhythmic, like a lullaby hummed from the throat of the world. You lie beneath the sky, no longer watching it, but becoming part of it. The stars blink gently above, unhurried, patient, familiar. Each one a pause in a story still unfolding. Each one a listener, like you. The desert, once vast and unknowable, now feels like a great library, its pages scattered in dunes, its footnotes carved into stone, its chapters whispered into firelight. You know you have not finished the book. You have only added a chapter. Others will follow. Others will walk. Others will listen. Your breath slows. The satchel beside you is lighter than it should be, and that's how you know the stories have rooted themselves. Not in the objects. In the earth. In the silence. In the people who passed you by and left something behind without knowing it. You smile. A quiet one. The kind that needs no witness. Above, a shooting star arcs across the sky, not a message, not an omen. Just a reminder that even the briefest light leaves a trace. Just like you have. So now, let the wind hum at your window. Let the dark cradle your body. Let your thoughts fall soft into the spiral of rest. Nothing needs to be remembered right now. You are safe. You are enough. And tomorrow will come when it's ready. Sleep well, listener of echoes. You've carried the story far enough for tonight.